Hi, I'm Abby Paige Stevens, and you're watching Stitchin' with Abby. I'm coming to you here from Stitchin Heaven with my friend Anita.
Hey guys.
And we are here to share with you all the latest and greatest projects that we have coming for you here at Stitchin Heaven. Today I have a really special project for you in honor of Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and we're doing a quilted jacket. So come on and let's get stitchin'. Hi there, and thanks for joining us today. Today we are excited to share with you a fun new quilted jacket project. And this one is really special because we are using Moda's new line for their Breast Cancer Awareness Month promotion that they do. It's a fabric collection designed by Kathy Holden, and she actually was designing this fabric while she was undergoing treatment and recovery.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, for breast cancer herself. And so this collection has a lot of meaning, I'm sure, to her and to anybody who is undergoing breast cancer treatment or is touched by it in any way with a family member or loved one. I'm excited to share this with you. I had to bring Anita with me because people,
hey guys.
I am not a garment sewer. I can do it if I have to, but I avoid curves and all those things if I can at all possible.
I feel like teamwork makes the dream work, because I'm not a quilter and Abby's a quilter, so.
Yeah, so together, she's got the garment side, I got the quilting piecing side, and so we're gonna help you get through this jacket together. The basis for this jacket is a sweatshirt jacket. Some of you may have heard of this technique before, but we're gonna share it with you here.
I feel like this was popular like several years ago.
Yeah.
You know, so we're bringing it back in style, guys.
Yeah. So we need to start with just a plain basic sweatshirt, and I would choose a color that is fairly neutral because you don't want anything bright showing through your pretty fabrics. And then also we need a sweatshirt that is at least 2 sizes larger than you want your finished jacket to be, because we're going to be cutting this apart, cutting out seams, and then sewing them back together using a 3/8 inch.
A 3/8 inch.
So we're going to be taking some size out of this. So when we get through the finished product, this is what it looks like. So we've got this pretty star centered in the back, which is what I'm going to be showing you how to piece together today. And then the rest of the jacket is just 3-inch squares that you just piece together into a panel.
Here, let's see if we can show you guys what you're going to do on the inside. So we're actually going to learn how to bind our seams inside.
Okay.
Which I'm excited about.
All right, so let's get started putting together this star that goes on the back of our jacket. So we are going to start with making a square in a square. So if you've never done that before, this is an opportunity to fussy cut if you have a motif in your fabric.
Yeah.
So that will be central in that star in the back. And then we will take a couple of squares here, and I'm going to slice these from corner to corner. Easy as that.
Okay.
And then here's a trick for you. And this is actually written in the pattern. We need to mark center points. So I'm just gonna do a little finger crease with my fingernail here.
So you know where to line it up.
So I know where to line it up, exactly. So we'll do that in both directions.
Okay.
And then I'm gonna do that to each triangle. So do you wanna do that with me?
Yeah.
All right. So once you have the center marks marked on your square and all 4 triangles, you will flip that right side down. And this is why we need to mark, is see how we have these little dog ears hanging off the sides here? So we need to make sure that this triangle is centered here. Okay. And so we're gonna line up that fold there. And I'm gonna do that on both sides. Just like that. And then you'll sew here.
Okay.
And here, 1/4 inch seam allowance. And once that's done and pressed open, it will look like that. So then once we do the other 2 sides, the same, I don't have to pull out a pencil or anything like that and be marking up my fabric. And then when you press this all out, that crease goes away.
Right.
So you put your other 2 sides on, 1/4 inch seam allowance. And then what you end up is this right here.
It's so pretty.
Isn't that pretty? And so we have that extra overhang so that we have our 1/4 inch seam allowance
all the way around
to sew in all the way around. So we are going to start with 2 of what I call our blue lace fabrics, and then 1 of our white lace, and 1 of our red. This is a really pretty, it's like a embossed leather type look, this is one of my favorites. You are going to mark on the back side of your blue squares a line from corner to corner, and then you're going to pair those together. So you are going to sew a 1/4 inch away from each side of the line on both of those squares.
Okay, we barely survived.
You did a great job. Stitching 1/4 inch away from the drawn line on each side. So the next step is to slice those in half.
So while you're doing that, do you know how I do this at home? Instead of drawing a line from corner to corner, I use one of those magic, Quilter's Magic wands.
Oh.
And I actually draw the lines that I have to sew on.
Sew on. Yeah, that's a cool tool.
I have to do that.
Yeah. Okay, let's get those pressed open. Okay. And if you will press them all to the blue side, then that way the seams will nest when we start putting these together. Okay, so we have 4 pretty half square triangles. So now you're gonna take a white one and a red one, you're gonna pair them together, and you're gonna have the blues opposite of each other.
Okay.
And those seams are gonna just butt right up next to each other. And then we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna draw a line from corner to corner. And then we're gonna sew a 1/4 inch away again on each side of the line, and we'll do that with both pairs.
Okay.
Okay? Okay, so now that we've got those sewn, we'll slice those apart from corner to corner, and then it's magical. When you open up, we've got these 1/4 square
Look at how pretty.
triangles. Look at what you did!
That was all you, Abby.
That looks so good. All right, so we'll get those pressed open, and you are gonna repeat that whole set. You'll do it twice, so you'll end up with 8. I've already got some made up here, so we'll end up with 8 of these 1/4 square triangles.
And these are gonna go around.
And these are gonna go around our square and a square. But we've got 1 more unit that we have to make before we're ready to assemble, okay? So set those aside for now. So the last unit that we need to put together is the corner unit of the square. So this one's really simple. It is just a red square and a white square that we'll sew together, 1/4 inch seam allowance there. Press it open, and then you sew your rectangle on, and then you open it up, and what you end up looks like this.
Cute.
Aren't those cute? So let's go ahead and get this last one sewn because we do need 4. So the tricky part to this is we need to make sure that we have 2 that are oriented this direction and 2 that are oriented in the opposite direction. So here I've got my reds to the right hand side, and here my reds are to the left hand side. And that's gonna make it so when we start to assemble these, that when we rotate them, it all works out.
Right.
Let's start assembling this. So we start with our square and a square section. The red faces out to the very outer corner. And so this is a tricky part of figuring out which goes where. There we go. So see how I've got rectangles all to the inside, and then I've got my red points facing out. Then when we put our 1/4 square triangles in there, we wanna make sure that these red points are touching our square and a square. Just like that. So the way that I would assemble this is I would sew your 2 1/4 square triangles together on each side, and then I would sew this row, I would sew these 2 sections onto here, and then sew this row together. And then what we end up with, so here's our square right here that we end up with. When I was piecing this square together, once I started assembling the units together, I did press my seams open just to help reduce the bulk. in this because right here we've got a seam here, a seam here, you know, all of these seams coming together, and so that's a pretty bulky spot there. And so I pressed all of those open when I was joining the units together.
And then the rest of it's just rows, right?
Right, so the rest of this is just 3-inch squares. You just sew together in rows and then sew your rows together. You do need to kind of do this in sections, and the pattern describes how to do all of this. So we've got a section up here on top, and then here on each side of the square, we have a section here that you'll build and a section here that you'll build, and then you'll sew this whole bottom section together. So then once you have your bottom section all put together, and then you assemble all of your pieces, and you end up with this panel that will end up being the back of your jacket. Once we have our back panel put together, then we need to create 2 front panels and 2 sleeve panels. So the front panel is literally just squares. The pattern is very clearly marked. You label your fabrics and it tells you which order all of these go in, so that you get these interesting kind of diagonal patterns once the jacket's all put together. So that will be, so you're gonna make 2 of these front panels. And then the sleeve panels, I wanted to kind of give it like a bomber jacket type look. It's mostly white, but then it's got this kind of racing stripe down the side. So again, it's just a row of 3-inch squares sewn together, and then you sew a chunk of white fabric on each side, and then we sewed a pink cuff down the bottom here. Once we have our panels all sewn together, it's time to start working with our sweatshirt and assembling the jacket part, and that's what I need Anita for. I'm excited to have her here to help us. So we started out with a sweatshirt.
Yes.
And again, it's 2 sizes larger than what we want our finished products to be, yes. Right? Okay.
Okay, so the first thing we're gonna do to make this easy on ourselves is we're gonna turn the sweatshirt inside out, you guys, okay? And the reason we do this is so that you can see the seams clearly, so you're not cutting off more fabric than you have to when you cut these cuffs off. So I like to start with the sleeve cuffs, okay? And what we're gonna do, we have these, we're gonna take these and we're going to cuff it into itself like this, okay? And then we're going to cut off this edge right here.
Okay.
That's how I do it.
Did you use scissors or can we use a rotary cutter?
I used scissors, you guys. We can use a rotary cutter.
Okay. I tried to take off not too much.
Yeah, and then we just kind of, and if you are a garment sewer at home, you can save these cuffs for your next project. So we're going to set them aside and save them.
Cool.
And we're going to do the same thing to this one. A lot of them will have your cover stitch tails or serger tails in here. We don't want those. We're going to pull those out.
Okay.
Cut with the seam away from you. Okay, so now that we have our sleeve cuffs off, we are going to do our bottom cuff, and it's going to be a little bit trickier. Okay, so if you'll notice, this one has a cover stitched hem here.
Okay.
And that means that they've taken their cover stitch machine and put it on either side of the seam here. You'll see the double stitching. So we can't cut the seam off the same way we did on the sleeves. So what we're going to do, this part, Abby, you may not like because we're going to have to use scissors.
Okay, well I've got some here, so let's do this.
So if your sweatshirt does not have a seam along the waistband, which most of them don't, you're going to find one of the side seams. And you'll notice right here, it's pretty easy to find on the inside. Mm-hmm. So you're going to cut right up the side seam there to the edge of the cuff, and then we're going to cut on the other side of their cover stitch seam.
Okay.
And we're going to try to cut as straight as possible, but it doesn't have to be exactly straight, because when we make our quilt sandwich, we're going to clean it up a little bit.
Okay.
Okay, look at you go, Abby.
I got it off. Okay.
So we're also going to save that part if we want to for a future project. I think it's important for me to note, you guys, before I forget, this sweatshirt here that we have is not 100% cotton. But if you do have a 100% cotton sweatshirt, you do want to wash it first before you do this. You don't want everything shrinking, you know,
okay.
Different. But this one has polyester in it, so we're good. So the next thing that I'm going to do is cut right up the side seams. That's how I did it. It makes it easier. Or you can cut the sleeve off first, whichever one you want to do first.
Well, I feel like
open the sides up first.
Yeah, I feel like opening up the sides will help us access that sleeve.
You'll notice if you open it up, most of the time there is a line right down the middle.
Yeah. So
if there's not on yours, you're just going to take it to your mat and you're going to grab it right here and at the end, and you're just going to iron it and press it when you're pressing that.
Okay, so I'm up to the sleeve.
So then these have cover stitched hems too, just like the bottom did. So we're going to cut around the outside of their stitching there, all the way around.
Okay.
Okay, so we're going to do the
first
same
sleeve out.
thing to the other side, and then I'll show you what to do with the sleeves.
Okay.
So now we have our sleeves cut off, okay? We're going to kind of try to flatten this out here. And if you want to use your rotary cutter, you can, but we are just going to cut this top part off with scissors and then rotary cut that side there if it's easier for you.
Okay, you know what? I have actually never used these OESD scissors before. And
I like them, don't you?
They are like, it's cutting like butter. It is amazing.
You, didn't I?
You did. So I'm gonna use my scissors.
They are the best, you guys. These shears are. Okay, we're gonna do the same thing to the next
to the second sleeve.
To the other sleeve.
Okay.
We now have our two sleeves and we have the cuffs off. So now what we need to do is separate the body of the sweatshirt.
So it looks like we already did up the sides.
Yes. So what I like to do is lay this out flat, and you'll notice most sweatshirts have this reinforcement right here, binding. What I like to do is cut, I'm going to show you on one side. I like to cut right on this side of this, then cut straight through that right there.
Okay.
Yes. So I'm going to let you do the other side. And when we're doing this, we're trying to keep this shoulder angle right here. So now all you have to do is take your shears and cut right on the side of this like we did for the others.
Okay, that's easy enough.
And this part's a little bit trickier because we want to keep our angles without messing everything up. What I like to do is start right here, follow this, but cut right through that reinforcement right there so that we have a nice
I'm gonna let you demonstrate.
angle. So we're gonna follow the angle. We're just gonna cut right there, and then we're gonna cut this side off and then over here. So we're gonna come on this side and do the same thing.
Okay.
And then we can cut the extra off.
So about like that?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna cut this.
Just all the way around, and then we can cut the shoulders off. And the reason we do it that way, guys, is because if you left that piece on here and then you cut all the way around here, you're gonna have this big curve. And it makes it really hard to line your shoulder seams up later if you don't make sure that you're defining them when you're cutting it out.
Okay, that's good to know.
Okay, so I know what most quilters are thinking right about now, Abby. We just cut off so much fabric. But I promise you it's not that much, and that's why we're gonna get a sweatshirt that's 2 sizes bigger.
Okay.
So what's our next step?
Well, you tell me, you're the garment sewer. So these become our pattern, right?
And our batting.
And our batting at the same time for our panels. So let's demonstrate how to put one of our panels together.
Okay. You know what we almost forgot to do, Abby? We almost forgot to show you how to cut the front open.
Right, because we want our jacket to open in the front, right?
We want it to open. So what we're gonna do is we're going to take the side seams over here, and if we cut out our sleeves correctly, we'll still be able to tell where the seams are there. Now, This is also where we're gonna make sure that it's even. And if it's not, we can trim it to make it even. That's why we have a sweatshirt that's bigger.
Yeah.
So you should be able to manipulate this a little bit to get the exact middle of everything. It takes just a second. You just got to kind of move it around a little bit. Okay, and then what I like to do is press a crease down the middle so that I have something to go off
To
of.
follow.
And we're not going to iron it, we're going to press it.
That's actually an important technique when we're piecing in quilting, because smushing, sliding our iron around causes our fabrics to distort, and so then when we're putting our pieces together, we can have issues if things have stretched.
So now we should have a line that we can follow with
Oh, look
our
at that.
shears.
Okay, perfect.
And then we just cut right up the line that we just made. There we go.
So now we've got our two front halves.
Yes. So now I think we should show them how to put our sandwich together with one of our front panels.
Okay, sounds good. All right, so we have our front panel that we sewed together, and we have the left-hand side of our sweatshirt out here, and we are going to use our sweatshirt like a pattern, right?
Yes.
So we have designed these panels so that they are plenty big to fit a variety of sizes. So this sweatshirt that I purchased for this tutorial is a 2X in men's. So it's a pretty good size sweatshirt, and you can see that we still have plenty of room. That was a question that I was asked by one of our employees.
Yeah.
Saw the jacket on Coffee with Anita.
Yeah.
And she was super excited about it. She's like, but I need a bigger size. And so I was able to reassure her that yes, we have plenty of space here. So you want to be kind of strategic in how you lay your piece on here, depending on, which, like the direction of we have these like diagonal lines coming in and stuff. So you get to pick where you want to lay that. And I think that looks good to me, kind of evenly.
So I just want to point out in the pattern it tells us to baste together, and we are going to do that, but sometimes it's hard to see where we want it to be before we baste it, So we're going to kind of lay this on top and cut it out as a pattern, and then we can baste them together. If we want to cut it a little bit bigger before we baste them, we can do that, which is what I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense. I think I'm going to do that. I'll leave myself probably about like 1/2 inch all the way around.
Yeah.
Does that sound reasonable?
We give ourselves some room, and this is just because it's hard to use it as a pattern piece and baste at the same time, and be able to see where you're laying it, because our sweatshirt is not see-through. Okay. So this piece is actually going to be your sandwich in the middle.
Okay.
But it's important to note to the people at home that what they can do at this point is take this piece out, and they can get their opposite panel and lay the opposite panel here and flip it over and line your squares up exactly and trim exactly where you just did. And that will help make sure that you have your front evenly lined up.
Oh yeah,
So that we're
and your pattern mirrors
Yeah.
each other. Okay. Yeah. That's a great tip.
So now we're going to make a sandwich.
So we need our backing fabric.
Yes. And isn't this fabric pretty?
This is absolutely gorgeous. So in the descriptions that I've read about this collection, each item this is actually a photo, like of a collage of actual physical items that Kathy has collected. And each item in here has some sort of significance to her and her battle with breast cancer. And so she's got like all of these little like kind of love and support notes, little inspirational messages. There's like,
Rose.
yeah, we've got the roses in here. She's got buckles, like this is supposed to be like a belt buckle. And she says, buckle up, you've got cancer.
Exactly.
So everything in here has some significance. So it's so pretty. And the other thing that I love about this collection is that it's not pink ribbons. It can be a pretty little girl's dress. It can be used for other things as well. And it's just, it's beautiful. Okay, so we're gonna lay out.
Yes, so you're gonna put that down, facing down. So this is a directional print, by the way. If you want to buy extra to make sure it's facing whichever direction you want, that you need to make sure you do that.
Okay.
So before we can finish making our quilt sandwich, we're gonna baste our sweatshirt piece to the front of our panel, okay?
I say one side of the bread to the meat.
Yeah. Now a sweatshirt does stretch, you guys. So what I did was I put the panel piece down and the sweatshirt on top to baste it so that I got less stretching. Okay, so after we get our pieces basted together, then we are going to sandwich it. And it's plenty wide right here for whatever size, so you just kind of lay it strategically wherever you want. And then we're going to put a couple pins in here to kind of hold it in place. This is when I put the pins in.
Okay. I'll just kind of do one in each corner.
Yeah.
Here. There we go. Once we have our basted parts on here, this is a lot of excess fabric, so let's go ahead and trim that down a bit before we go to the quilting portion of this.
You scare me a little bit with your new scissors, Abby.
I'm loving these. I'm gonna get me a pair.
She's so excited, y'all.
So once you have that trimmed to a manageable size, you are gonna wanna quilt this. And you can, it's quilt as desired. I know we all hate that, but what Anita did on the sample here was she just stitched in a ditch with a square grid. And then she continued that on the sleeves here.
I thought it'd be cool, yeah. I thought it'd be cool just to do some straight lines here.
So
the sleeves.
So when she gets to her sleeve panel, it's just,
and then in the ditch on the
up the
seams. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So which I think is a cool effect to have that little bit of quilting there in the field of the white.
This machine's making me nervous now.
Just for the sake of time, I just did some quick vertical quilting, stitching in the ditch up the rows here. So now it's all stuck together. So now we need to trim our backing to match our front parts, right?
Yes.
Okay. So this is just like if you were doing a full-size quilt, just like addressing your quilt sandwich to get it ready for binding.
I lined up the middle seam of the middle part right here. We have a line pressed right here in the middle of the sleeve. And I lined it up directly in the middle of that stripe. And then I brought mine almost all the way down even.
So we get that nice cuff at the bottom, at the wrist.
Time today, we're gonna pretend like all these are quilted, okay, you guys? Now, we wanna show you how this goes back together once you're putting this together. So we're gonna pretend we've got all our panels done, Abby, okay? So here's our other front panel. Okay, so we've got two front panels, and this will be our back panel. When we are getting ready to put this together, we're gonna set our sleeves to the side at first, and we are going to lay it like this. Now, remember this is quilted, so here's your center star, okay? Your two shoulder seams, and you can kind of see where your angles are. So then we're going to take, and remember, you're going to put the front side towards the right side up of the
Right,
panel.
so we're doing right sides together. So we've got our pieced patchwork side. That's gonna go,
yes, just like that.
Right side down, and your patchwork piece here is gonna be right side up.
So we are going to line these up, and once this panel is pieced, it's also going to be the same width as that one, because we have a little bit of extra fabric that we've given ourselves here. So you're going to line them up, and you're going to baste these seams together, okay? And just make sure that everything is caught. and then you're going to go back and stitch them together for real. We're going to use a 3/8 inch seam allowance, okay, when we sew these shoulder seams together. We're going to do the same thing on this side right here. Okay, we're going to use a 3/8 inch seam allowance. Now, we're not going to try to press these shoulder seams open, Abby.
Okay,
because
that seems like a lot of layers.
A lot of layers of fabric. Yeah. So what we're going to do is, after we have our 3/8 inch seam, we're going to come and we're going to trim it to a 1/4 inch right here, so that we don't have so much bulk when we're trying to attach our bias tape, because we're actually going to bind all these seams.
That'll be nice. I always love it when you open up a garment and all those seams on the inside are just nice and finished. I think it's really nice.
So after you've attached your shoulder seams, you're going to open this up, and you will have your shoulder seam right here, okay? You have already binded the inside seam in here, okay? And I'm going to show you that on our sample jacket. Right here, we're actually going to stitch this down. I don't know if you can see it, but it's there. And then we're going to add the sleeves. So this is actually a lot easier to me, because especially if you're binding all of your seams the other way, it becomes very bulky and hard to do very quickly. So there is going to be a right sleeve and a left sleeve. And the way that you're going to be able to tell that, it's going to be easy once you have your panel pieces sandwiched on here. But the white part is going to be bigger on the back than it is on the front. Okay, so then we're going to find the part with the back piece that goes right sides together with the back piece on here. There will be a right one and a left one, so make sure you have the right one, okay? And then we're just going to sew the sleeve on. What I like to do is I put a pin in it down here.
Okay.
Okay, and then I put a pin the middle of it at the shoulder seam. Then I do another pin over here. Now this is my trick, my tip and trick for the day. Are you ready for an Anita tip?
I'm ready.
Are you ready? Okay. So when you're on the sewing machine, you have this on the sewing machine, and those of you, have you ever done curved seams in quilting?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So you know the little trick where you hold it up as you sew it?
Yes.
That's what we're going to do when we put these shoulder seams on.
Okay.
We're going to kind of hold it up and work it in there. So then we're going to attach binding to that part after we've got the sleeve on.
To the whole length of the sleeve seam.
To the whole length of the sleeve seam. So this will be the next binding piece that you put on here, is the sleeve seam. Okay, and at this point, this is open.
Right.
Okay. So after we do that, we're going to do the other side. And then we're going to take the bottom of our sleeves and we're going to bind around the bottom edge of our sleeves.
So at the cuff. Okay.
At the cuff down here. And then we're going to close it up. And we're going to do that by matching at the top up here, matching at the inseam here. And you are going to have to pin right here. You're going to have to pin on this side, and you're going to have to pin on this side, because you cannot pin right there in that bulk. It is too bulky. So then we're going to take that.
So we would sew it together.
Sew it together.
3/8 inch seam, right? And then we trim
Yes.
to 1/4 inch and apply the binding.
And after we've done that to both sides, it pretty much will look like a jacket then. And then we just have to add our binding on the sides.
On the outer edges, so around the neck.
And the bottom.
And when we're all done, we pull it all right side out, and there we have it.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Anita, for coming and helping me today put this jacket together.
Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, this has been really fun. So I do want to let you know that we will have kits available here in the store, and the pattern will be available also if you want to use your own fabrics. It is available in a printed version and in a digital version. And of course, we would ask you to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so that you can keep up on all that's happening here at Stitchin Heaven. And we will see you next time.
Bye, guys.